Now, nobody's surprised that a personality, a character like Don Callis is getting the type of heat he's getting currently every single week on Dynamite, especially after his actions, after he betrayed the man who at one point in his career called his son. During that steel cage match against Jon Moxley, Don Callis turned on Kenny Omega, and the crowd finally got what they wanted. They've always wanted to boo Don Callis out of the building. He just has that quality to his on-screen portrayal when it comes to Don Callis, the character. But because he was aligned with Kenny Omega, you couldn't really boo him, because if you booed him, you kind of by association also booed Kenny Omega. So on that part alone, I believe Tony Khan has done a masterful job of turning Don Callis into the heel that he has always meant to be. Now the issue is that nuclear heat that Don Callis has been receiving from the crowds at AEW Dynamite on a weekly basis for the past 2-3 weeks. Tony Khan and Don Callis have to figure out a way to transfer that heat to a superstar on the AEW roster and get that superstar over. And as much as I love Takeshita, he's a fantastic wrestler, he is a good guy through and through no matter what. And again, they're booing him right now because he's associated with Don Callis. That's pretty much the only reason fans are booing Takeshita, when in reality they would want to cheer him. It's kind of like RVD in the Invasion back in 2001. People didn't want to boo RVD, but he was going up against the World Wrestling Federation. He was the heel, so you had to boo him, or you couldn't cheer for him, rather. But in the back of your mind, like, he's a good guy. We want to cheer for him. That's Takeshita in my mind. And now, Don Callis, along with Takeshita, is embarking in this story of trying to take the elite out of all elite wrestling, which is, again, a very intriguing story that could work on multiple levels if done right. If they put the right people in place. And for the time being, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Takeshita, no doubt about that. But with Saturday Night Collision coming up, the debut episode this Saturday night, I firmly believe that maybe you add CM Punk to this entire storyline. Just make it 100 times more interesting for everybody involved, for the casuals, because the casuals are going to see CM Punk going up against Kenny Omega, a dream match that we've been wanting to see ever since CM Punk made his return to AEW back in 2021. And they're going to see him align with FTR, which, again, I still don't get the alignment other than the fact that they love Bret Hart. But just a month before they got together with CM Punk, they beat him down because he was a part of the Pinnacle, and they were in the middle of a feud with MJF. So again, poor storytelling on that part by Tony Khan in that case. But again, it's past. So I can firmly imagine the Elite, Hangman Adam Page, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, 4 men versus another 4 men. Takeshita, CM Punk, FTR with Don Callis as a cowardly, not mastermind, not puppeteer, because I don't think he'd be able to control CM Punk in character or in storyline. I just feel like he'd be supporting that notion of taking the Elite out of all elite wrestling. I think that's a storyline that would benefit wrestling as a whole. And it's something that AEW desperately needs. It desperately needs to catch headlines. And what better way to catch headlines than to announce to the world that CM Punk and Kenny Omega have not put their beef aside. They're not cool with each other, but they're willing to do business together. For the good of AEW, for the good of the wrestling business, they're willing to work together because it is, again, the very tried and true slogan of professional wrestling that WWE has used in the past. It is best for business to have CM Punk and Kenny Omega and the Elite eventually cross paths down the line. That just needs to happen if AEW wants to make money, if AEW wants to garner more viewership, more attention, more headlines, if they want to compete with WWE at some point. You can't keep them apart because it just handicaps you. It restrains your potential times 100, and that's just not possible if you're trying to compete with AEW. So that's all I'm saying. If this is the story you're going towards, you need a catalyst. You need something so big added to it that the casual fan, the hardcore fan, the mainstream fan, whatever, cannot ignore this. You want to take some attention away from WWE's best storyline in the 20-25 years with the Bloodline? Add on this beef between the CM Punk and the Elite. Put them in a story together in AEW and let them do magic. And let them eventually get to the point where we get Kenny Omega versus CM Punk one-on-one. Not for the world title, obviously. They don't need the world title. They're two household headline names going at it one-on-one. I think that's the best foot forward when it comes to this entire Elite storyline. Or Don Callis taking out the Elite. Because again, Takeshita is a fantastic performer. He will eventually, if he sticks with AEW, he will eventually reach the main event, no doubt. He has charisma. He has the wrestling ability. Everything about him screams babyface, though. He might be able to change that. I don't know. But for the meantime, you need that heat that Don Callis gets transferred to a star who can actually put up a decent enough program, or wrong choice of words, a relevant, attention-grabbing program with the Elite and with Kenny Omega. But we'll just have to wait and see. In the meantime, just like with Dominic Mysterio and WWE, every time Don Callis comes out on AEW, I enjoy the chorus of boos that he gets because it is entertaining. It lets the fans know, hey, we're intrigued, we're interested, we're locked in whatever's going on that show, and you should be too. So you can't really complain about that. The difference is that the heat on WWE's part is on a professional wrestler that can actually go in the ring and transfer that heat to a babyface chasing him. AEW needs to figure out a way to take that heat Don Callis receives and put it on a star. And I think CM Punk might be that very guy, but we'll just have to wait and see. So with that said, tune in later on tonight to TBS for another episode of Dynamite. It is the go-home show to Collision, which is something I thought I would never say, but again, it is a return of CM Punk. It is a debut of Saturday Night Wrestling for AEW, so it is a big deal. And we'll just have to wait and see how they execute it. So with that said, leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions in the comment section below. I'm Alexis Carrillo. This has been Wrestling Talk, and I'll see you next time.